Hi, this is John Reed. I'm filming a few videos tonight, and so I wanted to do one on Twitter to kind of get myself warmed up a little bit. I've been on Twitter for more than a year now, and I feel like I'm still coming to a good understanding of the best ways to use it, which is one of the great things about Twitter is how deep a stream it is as far as learning how to really communicate effectively using it. Its secrets are revealed slowly and are not easily discovered. On the other hand, it does create a lot of problems because people tend to do a lot of things that I consider to be stupid or foolish or counterproductive. And I get clients all the time asking me about how can I be effective on Twitter and such. And so I thought one way of making this kind of fun would be to just talk about some things I don't like uh, on, on Twitter and that I would criticize or say are bad approaches, and then we'll see if maybe there's a few good grains of best practices or whatever you want to call them to come out of that. So, all right, so some things I don't like. Well, I think the one thing is that sometimes I think some companies try to put kind of social media maple syrup on an underlying thing that is really pretty nasty underneath. And the thing is that getting on Twitter is only going to amplify problems in an organization if you have them. And so if you don't have a culture that promotes a certain kind of transparency and information sharing, then I just really don't see how Twitter's going to work out all that well for you. So I know a couple of Twitter feeds in the SAP world that pretty much all they do is send links to articles that are behind firewalls. And linking to stuff behind firewalls is just plain annoying in general. Like, for example, Wall Street Journal generally has a firewall. So don't link to Wall Street Journal articles. That's just like, that's useless to me and to other people that are following. But the same is true as far as like, oh, I'm going to send a bunch of links to stuff behind a firewall. All that does is really expose you on Twitter as a company that just doesn't want to share information. And maybe that business model works for you, but it ends up, I think, it's almost better to not be on Twitter than to push that stuff. The other thing is just along those same lines is that you can have other ways of making a fool out of yourself by either pushing press release content or pushing links to half-baked blogs or whatever, and then you're going to get called out on Twitter and people are going to give you a hard time. So Twitter is definitely a quality control mechanism there where you're going to be getting into the fray with people a little bit. And I think that really works well for both companies and individuals who are prepared for that and don't mind rolling up their sleeves a little bit like I have tonight and basically go for that and basically jump into the interaction and realize, you know what, people are going to give me a hard time sometimes, they're going to like stuff, not like stuff, and I'm going to grow from that. So if you have stuff you can link to from Twitter, that's big. If all you can do is push tweets, then you don't have nearly as much impact as if you have blogs or podcasts or white papers or videos or something you can share. Even pictures of a trip that you went on over the weekend into the mountains or what have you. It gives flair to what you're doing. So bring context to what you do on Twitter. It's going to pay off a lot better for you. Some other things I don't like, auto direct messages when you sign up to follow someone. What's the point? I'm following you. I don't need any more instructions on what I should be doing. I'm going to see your tweets. That should be good enough. I'm not a fan of what I call drive-by replies, which is the faking of conversation. Like, someone the other day, this social media superstar, they sent me a reply, and it was kind of a pot shot, to be honest. They were basically kind of mocking an argument I had made on a blog post. And in that sense, I replied back, and there was no engagement, no conversation. So basically, they were trying to present the illusion of conversing and interacting when in fact they weren't interested in interacting. Now, while I think that the best tweeters are definitely conversational in nature, you don't have to be that conversational as long as you don't fake conversation. If you just post stuff, some people really, just do kind of a live stream of what's going on with them and they don't interact that much. And sometimes that's okay. It depends a little bit on what they're up to, but, just be who you are and don't try to fake what you're not. It would be the way I would put it there. Another really big one, which probably needs its own demonstration video on a computer sometime, is be very intentional about replies, because a lot of times people want to push something, so they'll reply and say, I love this thing you're doing, but what they don't realize is when you start a tweet with a reply, the only people that can see that are the ones that are also replying to that person. So in Twitter, it used to be either way. Now it's always this way. They've made a change that way. And so bottom line is that be very intentional on your replies, because you might be trying to give visibility to someone, but if you start the tweet with at so and so's name, most of your followers might not see it unless they're also following that person. So that requires some thought. Hashtag overuse, hashtag abuse, whatever you want to call it. Hashtags are cool for some stuff, but if I see someone hashtagging all the time, it just kind of feels like they're preening for the stream. And you know what? Like, if you're in a particular field and you write about that field a lot, people are going to find you. You don't have to hashtag the heck out of everything you do in order to be found. So I think sometimes excessive hashtags are not a good idea. Obviously, it's a little bit different if you're at an event where hashtags are incredibly useful, or if you're like a Twitter account like an SAP etiquette where you're pushing event stuff and that's why people follow you, then of course you're going to use the hashtag. But I think you can have some awareness around that. The other big thing is Twitter's not RSS, so I don't just want to see a bunch of articles. I mean, there are some tweeters where, yeah, you subscribe to a feed, that's what you're getting. But for individuals, like, why are you pushing a ton of articles to me? Like I want to know context. I want some filtering. I want to know why you liked or didn't like something. If you send a link, I expect it to be an article that you really like. If you send a blog link, it better be a blog that really impacted you in some way. And if you can tell me why, that helps me even more to discern that information. I get a better sense of who you are. I don't want to link to a one-paragraph blog. That's the bottom line. Unless you're Deal Architect, who is Vinny Merchandani, he can somehow write something in 2 sentences that is actually worth reading. But for the most of us, you know, we need a few paragraphs at least before it's like even worth sending me onto a blog. And then the other thing I guess I would say is, you know, the one thing I don't really like is when people do too much self-retweeting from different accounts. Like, you know, you have a business account, a personal account, you're retweeting back and forth. Maybe people don't realize you're the person behind the business account. So that's kind of that mindless retweeting. It's like, you don't always have to feed the stream. Sometimes you just take a step back and say, I'm going to go back to the stream when I have something interesting to share. So stream abuse is definitely an issue for me. And finally, the other thing I just really wanted to take a hit at is excessive use of quotations. For whatever reason, positive quotations are really something that people like to push. And I'm not looking for a personal coach on Twitter. That's really not why I'm there. So I don't really need like some kind of feel-good pick-me-up in the middle of a stream, especially when it's some canned quotation. For whatever reason, Tony Robbins is a big one on Twitter. So, you know, someone followed me the other day, and they only tweet they had in their archive was a Tony Robbins quote. And some of these quotes are downright baffling. I actually wrote a couple down for you, so I'm going to read them to you. One of them is, we will act consistently with our view of who we truly are, whether that view is accurate or not. If you can tell me what that means, then you're a better person than me. But this was tweeted all over the tweet streams today, as if that was actually going to be useful. Another one from Tony was, how am I going to live today to create the tomorrow I'm committed to? Okay, so to me that's not a good use of a tweet. I would rather see a picture of your dog. I'd rather have you share your favorite song with me. However, if you're going to blip a song, blip being one of the popular services, don't just give the song. Tell me what it is. I'm not clicking on a blip unless I know where you're sending me. So send me somewhere good and I'll be psyched. And tell me where you're sending me before I go there. So finally, as far as positive quotes are concerned, my favorite would be from Gaping Void, create or die. So if you want to tweet something positive, then create or die is the one that works for me. So don't feel sad about sending that along to me at your earliest convenience. So the bottom line is I do think that Twitter is good for conversation. Some people say it's not a good conversational medium, but I actually think it is a good conversational medium. I've seen so many interesting conversations sparked on Twitter. In the SAP world, we've talked about so many interesting topics, from virtualization skills to the down market to SAP's readiness for the software as a service world. All kinds of people chiming in, posting links to blogs. Yes, sometimes the conversations get fragmented and that can be frustrating, but Twitter's where it's at. That's where people are. It's in real time, and if you're gonna not only, you know, share links that you care about and give me context, but if you're gonna converse with me and interact with me, then you're gonna be one of my favorite people to follow, and vice versa. And I could give you numerous examples of people in the SAP world who are great to follow for that reason, and I don't necessarily want to, you know, say one at the expense of the other, but the mentors are really good as a group. So if you go to @SAP mentors and follow a lot of those folks, those are a lot of really interactive tweeters for the most part. There are others in the SAP world. @Nenshot is someone I really like. Then there's a bunch of great analysts, Frank Scavo, F. Scavo. These are people that are really looking to get a handle on the market, and so they will interact with you. They'll share strong opinions, and that's what Twitter is all about. Is kind of getting into the mix a little bit, and not being afraid to roll your sleeves up, maybe even higher than what I can do here. So that's my view on Twitter. I hope you have a good time on Twitter, and now I'm going to go shoot my next SCN video. So hope you enjoyed this Twitter rant.